That's not our system. I know that. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by, continuing my video showcasing retro, fun, cool-ass laser video discs from from the late 70s, early 80s, and so on and so forth that I got, used years ago when I was frequenting these stores that were, carrying these laser discs. These are just so much fun, and I'd forgotten about a lot of these laser discs. I'd forgotten that I had a lot of these laser discs that I've been showing you guys. This one is just super, super, super cool because I just absolutely love this movie, and being the age I am, my first time seeing this movie was probably the original film to tape transfer, and I can only imagine that that is the transfer that's included on this LaserDisc. I'm coming at you to showcase what very well might be the original Alien LaserDisc from its dated copyright 1982, 20th Century Fox Video Incorporated, Farmington Hills, Michigan, all rights reserved, manufactured in Japan for Disc-O-Vision Associates. That's interesting, I just read that now. This obviously doesn't sport the kind of the Disc-O-Vision. I don't know if this is technically a Disc-O-Vision release, but obviously I'm not seeing the, the Disc-O-Vision name or anything on this particular LaserDisc. So who knows? But I did see the word Disc-O-Vision Associates here, so maybe it's in association with them or whatever. This, as I've already stated, being the age I am, having grown up in the 80s and stuff, a lot of movies, a lot of these classic movies, or any movies for that matter, that were made in the 60s or 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on and so forth. If I watched them, grew up with them in the 80s, I obviously saw their original film-to-tape transfers. And as I've said in so many of these videos past, it's really fun to, even in today's, HD, 4K home video experience world, it's really fun, being the age I am, to go back and revisit original film-to-tape transfers because they're the ones that I grew up with. This one, I was just so excited when I found this, and I knew that I was going to obviously put this on DVD so I could experience it more conveniently on DVD, the original film-to-tape pan and scan transfer, of course. And one thing I want to say, having just taken a quick look at the DVD recently, that I put this on the DVD, and the sound, I don't think it's digital sound, it's analog sound, and of course you've got the CX noise reduction logo here, but it's stereo, and it's like stereo surround. And I just looked down this package, and it's just like, I don't think I can see anywhere that even indicates stereo. But the stereo audio track, although it's probably analog only, is really good on this. You know how the Matrix surround out of the 2-channel audio and stuff? I mean, it just works so good with this movie. And for being a LaserDisc from 1982, it sounds actually really good in the stereo. The spatial separation between right and left and that matrixed surround works really, really great in this LaserDisc. And it's just such a treat, having just, scanned over bits and pieces of that DVD that I made from this LaserDisc. It's such a treat to be able to experience the original film-to-tape transfer of Alien. Of course, this is, LaserDisc, of course, would in the future, or years and years after this release, would be the only way, in many cases, to watch a movie in its original widescreen format at home. But back when LaserDisc first came out in the late 70s and early 80s, they weren't bothering with widescreen, or at least if they were, not very much. And mostly across the board, if you had a release, it would just be the same release. On LaserDisc, it'd be the same transfer and everything that would have been on the VHS tape as well. So in this case, you've got, of course, from a Panavision movie, you've got what they call, of course, pan and scan version of Alien, which just adds to its charm, retro viewing charm, if you will. How cool is that cover? I mean, that's just so cool. And you've got the really, really late 70s, early 80s, old 20th Century Fox logo up on the corner. Oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It says stereo right here on the top of the front cover. And of course on the bottom here it says extended play. You've got the 20th Century Fox logo up on the top corner. On the bottom corner you've got 20th Century Fox Video, and I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but I got this probably in 2009, previously viewed at half-price books for $2 $2,000,000.98. I mean, just such a thrill to have this release, and you know, at the time to have found it, and you know, obviously to still have it now is really fun. And as I said, I'd forgotten that I had a lot of these retro LaserDiscs that I got from Half Price Books. But just like with the Deliverance LaserDisc that I showcased, this is a movie that's only 116 minutes. It's under 2 hours long, but for some reason it's on 2 discs, 3 sides, just like with Deliverance. And it very well might be, like I stated in that, you know, showcasing of Deliverance LaserDisc, is maybe the reason they did that in the early years of LaserDisc was because, you know, they didn't want to push too much information on a side. You know, they didn't want to push what they would end up doing, you know, 55, 56, 57, 58 minutes on a side, when a side was only capable of holding, you know, 60 minutes, of course, on a, you know, one side of a CLB extended play LaserDisc. So maybe in the early years of LaserDisc, you know, the practice was, if a movie was pushing 2 hours or something like that, let's, you know, put it on 2 discs, 3 sides, just so it's not all super, you know, some of the sides, both sides aren't overly, you know, full of information. I can only assume that was the practice in the early days of LaserDisc, because obviously probably later on, ironically, when a widescreen, you know, if a widescreen CLB version of this came out in the early 90s or mid 90s or something, I'm sure it would be on just 1 disc, 2 sides. But of course we've seen the front cover, and the back cover is just so cool. Look at how it's just freaking white. Isn't that just, oh my god, that's so cool. White with the green alien logo up top, and I just love how this is just, it's so crazy to think that this LaserDisc that I'm holding was manufactured only, you know, just several years after the movie came out. And it's just like, gosh, this LaserDisc is almost as old as the movie itself. But I really like the old early 80s frickin' way of doing, you know, the artwork on these things. And these old LaserDiscs are just so fun. And on the bottom here you've got a teeny weeny, like a paragraph of behind the scenes. I'll just take a picture and you can pause it if you want to read this whole thing. Alien building a monster. How do you create an alien? How do you design a creature of shocking and terrifying proportions? And I'll let you pause and read the rest if you so choose. But a little teeny weeny bit of behind the scenes, you know, fun right there and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And one thing that, you know, as I was, you know, continuing to shoot and edit and upload these videos, that I was kind of, over time, that I was realizing that I was forgetting to say, and it's just because being a LaserDisc collector for so many years, it's just obvious to me, but it might not be obvious to you guys that don't know anything about LaserDisc, that I've been not really showcasing, is that, you know, it occurred to me I should show you, well, how do the discs go in and out? Well, it's a, you know, it's a paper / cardboard sleeve thing, and in this case with this 2-disc collection, it's just like a sleeve, and the LaserDiscs are housed in this plastic protective material, and they just slide out this one side of the, you know, packaging, and they're each in a little protective thing like that. So it just occurred to me, you know, how many LaserDisc showcase videos am I into, and I didn't even really showcase that yet. Whoops, as I say, a longtime LaserDisc collector and owner, I guess I just took it for granted that people just knew, well, obviously the discs just slip out of the little sleeve. Well, not necessarily, so there you go, that's how that works. So here you've got the Alien LaserDisc Disc 1 Side 1. Then, of course, Alien LaserDisc Disc 1 Side 2, Disc 2 Side 3, and of course Side 4, which doesn't even give a Side 4. Technically, program material has been recorded only on other side of this video disc. Every time I read that on the Side 4s, I always get kind of almost tongue-tied, like the wording of that is kind of written in a way that's a little bit goofy in my opinion. It's just like I always get hung up a little bit on that. Like I probably would have said, you know, this says program material has been recorded only on, yeah, I think the word "the" should be there, you know, program material has been recorded only on the other side of this, but this is, I don't know, it's just so many words crammed in there. I guess this works too. I mean, how cool is that? I hope you guys enjoyed this video showcasing what very well might be the original Alien LaserDisc from North America. I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, this thing is just so cool. And like I said, when I found it probably back in '09, for $3, I'm like, oh yes, because as I said, I first saw Alien when I was 11 years old, and that was the late 80s, so I would imagine that VHS tape we rented was the original film to tape transfer. And I subsequently recorded it off TV, and I would imagine that was also the original film to tape transfer. So once again, it's just so great to own that original transfer on disc, and now, you know, now that I, since back when I got this, put it on DVD for posterity and more easier viewing and stuff like that. It's just so cool, you know, coming from my era, growing up in the 80s and stuff like that, to be able to experience these original film to tape transfers and just have this for just, you know, collectible, just coolness and stuff like that. Obviously, it's fun to also experience these movies in HD and, you know, widescreen and better resolutions, but there's just a quaintness about the original film to tape transfers of movies, because they're so archaic compared to now, but at the same time they're still, you know, completely watchable. And you know, maybe teenagers or 20-somethings would disagree with that, and maybe the only way I think, you know, feel that way is because I grew up watching these. But still, I still contend that, I mean, even a, you know, a chopped pan and scanned version of crappy old film to tape transfer from the early 80s like this, I mean, I still think it, especially with the sound this LaserDisc sports, is still very, very watchable. And there's just a cool, quaint retroness to watching a movie on this this quality. So thank you very much for watching this video, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.